You know, I kind of don't see a lot of videos explaining why people are quitting Marvel Rivals, or I don't really see a lot of posts or genuine posts out there that basically saying why they quit this game. It's mostly like, you know, just small voices you hear here and there, but you don't really hear like a big post like Marvel Rivals is dying and people are leaving this game in masses. It's usually people just like don't even say anything, they just leave. And it really got me showing that like it's kind of right. And I'm kind of like gonna make my own like theory at the end, but I'm gonna list some couple of reasons why people quit this game. And it is kind of anecdotal because I've just been looking at it, especially in comment section when people just say they quit this game. But the first reason is because the matchmaking system in this game is completely garbage. And I think it is common knowledge. Everyone knows that the matchmaking system is basically rigged to the point where like no matter what you do, no matter how much of a good player you are, no matter how much time and effort you put in, this game would not respect your time, because it will give you teammates or put you against people all for the sole purpose to keep you playing for way longer. They purposely give you losing streaks, they even give you winning streaks, all for the sole purpose to keep you engaged in this game for way longer. And most of the things they release in this game is basically designed to keep you playing for way longer. Which is obvious, but most of it just becomes too much, becomes repetitive, and it becomes boring. Yeah, I'm gonna give more examples why this matchmaking system is garbage, about what kind of matches it gives you. For example, it will probably give you like a full team of DPS players. Now, there's nothing wrong with getting DPS players, but you know that DPS players, they don't really play anything else. They just play DPS. So if they end up having to fill for tank or support, most of them just doing a bad job. So no matter what, that game is basically going to be so miserable to play, where you have to go above and beyond just to win, or that game is fried and you guys are going to lose regardless. Another thing is that some of the matches you get end up just having a lot of throwers on your team for no reason. And this is kind of like the losing streak you get, where like it just gives you people that can care less about winning. They just want to play rank, play whatever they want, and hopefully they rank up. That's basically how they go. They just hold W, pick whatever role they want, force whatever they want, and basically just don't care. Or you get the other half where like no matter what, or you get the other half where the enemy team is just better than your team, in terms of they know how to play certain roles better than your team. And this kind of ties into like having your team filled with DPS players. For some reason, the enemy team will have a dedicated tank player that knows how to play. Bro, what's the point of me even playing this game if my teammate don't even know how to play like that? And it's crazy is that like even though your players will be DPS mains, some of them would just literally just be average DPS players. What I mean is like they're hard stuck DPS players. They're just sort of good with the tank players. The reason why they dominate so much when you go up against them is usually because your team doesn't have anything to counter them. And since tanks have a lot of health, they have a lot of sustain. Just a decent enough support on their team to keep pocketing them when they're diving or when they're playing off their cooldowns. Alright, this is kind of like the second point is kind of not that serious, but it will probably be the battle pass or the event pass that they release throughout the seasons. Now the battle pass is kind of, most of the times the release is kind of sleeper, which means like it's not that good, but it's so grindy to the point where like if you don't grind this game, especially throughout like when you're playing Marvel Rivals, if you wait till the last couple of weeks of the season, you basically have to like cram so many hours in this game just to get the battle pass rewards. And I think that's one of the main reasons why people don't like playing Marvel Rivals, is simply having to grind that battle pass all the time they play this game, especially when the Marvel Rivals isn't that fun to begin with, because Marvel Rivals for most people isn't like a game that they should be playing every day, because this game can be so exhausting because how much bullshit you have to deal with on a daily basis when you play this game. Especially with the event passes, some of them require like a lot of they require like so many matches and XP just to get all the rewards, and basically you have to spend like another like $5 to $10 to unlock the full pass. I think the only thing they really did to alleviate this is that once you buy the battle pass, you can unlock its rewards. You can unlock its rewards at any time. So if the next season comes, you can still unlock the rewards that you didn't unlock that season. I think this ties into my next point, but the third reason will probably be skin distribution, which is like some heroes just don't get any good skins at all, or some heroes don't get skins at all, and it's always the same heroes getting the same skins. And everyone knows it's like Luda Snow, Psylocke, Spider-Man, and whoever else is getting a lot of skins. But most of the times, it's like it gets so much boring, because like let's say you main, I don't know, Human Torch. Let's say you main, I don't know, like Ultron. Let's say you main Ultron, Adam Warlock, Hulk. You know, any of those heroes, most of them don't get any skins. So like when you want to get back into Marvel Rivals, or you want to play Marvel Rivals and you hear there's a new update dropping, just to find out your hero hasn't gotten a skin in like a couple of seasons already. And for most people, when they see the same heroes getting the same skins, they end up like, all right, I might need to, you know, not play this game for a while until they finally release something worth playing for. All right, now this is probably one of the biggest reasons why people quit. which I think we're at number 5. I don't know, but it would probably be the boring meta or having to deal with the same metas all over the every other season. And what I mean by that is like right now, since season 8.5 came out, I think the only metas we're dealing with right now in specific is basically poke and support meta, which I think last season before not last season, but before season 8.5 came out, it used to be dive meta, but now they nerfed it to the ground, so it's not as good or it's not as the meta right now. And the thing is, like, it doesn't even matter what meta it is. It's always the same boring things you get into every time you play this game, especially if you play rank. If there's always the metas, especially the poke, support, and dive meta, you always see the same dives. You always see the same supports. You always see the same tanks, the same DPS players. I mean, DPS heroes getting picked. And like the thing about it is like, it gets so repetitive and boring that like, not only is it predictable, you also gotta play against its boringness, but also it's how miserable it is. And what I mean miserable is that it's too difficult to play with, and it's not that really rewarding. So if you're solo queuing and then you end up having to go against triple support as a solo DPS, like the chances of you having a good time are basically low. Because let's say your support isn't playing with you, let's say the other DPS isn't playing with you, then it becomes super boring, super miserable. And the only way to counter this is usually to go poke, and then you just in the backline just poking at people, hoping they die. And it becomes too boring, too repetitive. And it's not really engaging when you always have to do this. I'm gonna go into my next reason, which is the tank, which just kind of ties into my last point. But everyone knows that right now tank is like probably the worst role you can play in this game. Not because I don't think tanks are too underwhelming. I think in some cases they are. Which honestly might sound kind of dumb, because I'm actually gonna agree that tank does feel underwhelming, but not for the reasons that like it's boring, it's broken. But the thing is, tanks are kind of hard to build up, if that makes sense. Like most of the like power comes from like having a good support that can heal you all the time. And it's kind of like obvious, but like, well, it's not really a big deal because supports will always heal you. If you play any sort of good rank in Marvel Rivals, like Diamond, Plat, Grandmaster, I'm pretty sure your support players are always healing you. They end up just being the heal bots. But the thing is like playing support is so boring typically because you have to do a lot of groundwork for your team to like basically have fun. That's what I mean. Like tank requires has a lot, like a big build up in order for you to enjoy it. You need to peel, you need to like create space, you need to do a lot of things just to play it. And the thing is, DPS is not like that. You can just play DPS, play Squirrel Girl, play any DPS, especially the easiest ones, and you can get a lot of value, a lot of fun out of it. But with tank, you basically have to play off cooldowns, you have to play off a bunch of stuff. You have to hope that your team isn't like basically falling off when you're pushing up. You have to be aware of a lot of things. You need to have like a lot of awareness. You basically have to turn on your brain so much to the point where like if your brain goes off for like 1 second, you basically end up just dying. Especially if you're playing an off tank that doesn't have a shield. If you're not playing in a consistent awareness way, then you basically are fried. You're basically gonna have a miserable time, especially if you're solo tank. Alright, I think there's a second to last point, but I don't even know. I think that ties into my first couple of points, which is the matchmaking system, is when you get throwers on your team. Now, everyone has experienced this to some level, especially like when you're in high ranks. But for some reason, most of the people that play Marvel Rivals, especially when you're solo queuing, for some reason, everyone likes to be like some nonchalant person where like they lock in whatever they want, play whatever they want, especially like they don't even play anything meta. They just play something like they lock in with like what, Widow, Squirrel Girl, anything that like you barely see, and they'll like try to make it work. They might be okay with the character, but like they're mostly on ult accounts, they mostly don't care, and they mostly have like the worst mentality. Like if you say anything to them, if you play it a certain way that they don't like, they end up just throwing your whole match. And that's literally like the premises of like Marvel Rivals solo queuing, is that like most of your matches can literally just be thrown or literally be losses even before they start, simply because of the teammates you got. You constantly get these teammates on a daily basis. And I think even Marvel Rivals or NetEase basically released a statement a while back saying like, yo, like they're trying to do something against people that are constantly throwing these matches. They put in like a system to stop them or basically detect them. I forgot what it was, but something like that. Now my last point is basically the Marvel Rivals community. Now this is kind of like hit or miss, because the Marvel Rivals community kind of keeps this game alive. Like if people aren't making content, if people aren't talking about it, if people aren't like playing this game and basically have their own subreddits or reddits or Twitter posts talking about it, I don't think this game will be thriving as much as it does. But I think it's also one of the main reasons why this game is kind of fried and why people just end up quitting is usually because the community in this game either becomes too toxic or becomes too hostile, which is basically just toxic. And what I mean by this is like, let's say you have a different opinion than someone, the Marvel Rivals community, especially the ones that are chronically online, these people will go out of your way to like, well, I haven't dealt with this, but most of them was basically give the worst takes or just be basically just attack you for having a garbage take. Or let's say it's not online, let's say you're not making any posts or you're giving your opinion. For some reason, these people that are like constantly grinding the game, this will be in game. I experienced it, like for me, I'll just play a hit scan and just like, that's the only reason why I play this game is because they have hit scan. And that's kind of like the problem is like, I don't really know anything like in terms of like team composition or meta. I just play like Punisher, Star-Lord. I know a little bit about the game. But one of the biggest problems I deal with is like, they will just say the most obvious things in terms of like, if you don't know a specific team comp, a specific counter, or anything that requires a little bit of knowledge of the game, they end up just being like snobs about it. Like, damn, you don't know this or that. You're only like GM, you don't have, what is my team doing, bro? They're not, bro, why would you do that in a certain situation? Like, if you honestly think that, you know what I mean? Like, these people are basically just annoying to deal with. They're toxic. They're basically a little annoying with it too. And yeah, every time they talk, I just want to get off the game. One of my theories is to why people quit playing Marvel Rivals is simply because there's no role queue in this game. Especially for the casual player base, if they had a role queue, they will basically just make playing this game way more bearable, because that would be like one less factor of deciding that their game is basically screwed because the matchmaking system and basically the throwers they're in the game. But if you get someone that can play double tank instead of always forcing just one tank on your team, it would just make the game way more, well, not make it way more, but make it less boring and less annoying to deal with. And I think Marvel Rivals know that most of its players is leaving, or most of the players that don't play this game used to play but want to get back into it. So that's why they use streamers, especially in that tournament, to reach out to those viewers, to reach out to that audience again, to make them play the game. Especially right now with the summer event and the free units are given out. They know what they're doing.